Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we sift through the sources, pull out those surprising facts, those key insights, really helping you become properly well-informed. Today, we are diving deep into Madonna in a Fur Coat. It's a Turkish classic by Sabahat and Ali, and this isn't, just any old novel. It's quite a haunting, really emotionally resonant story. It's captivated readers across the globe, and get this, it still tops bestseller lists in Turkey, decades after it first came out.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think what's so compelling about this, well, it's quite a slim novel, actually, is just how long it's lasted, its power. It explores, yes, universal themes we all know, like love, alienation, but it also kind of reimagines human connection.
Yeah.
And it challenges gender roles in a way that feels incredibly current, which is striking considering it was written back in, 1943?
Yeah.
And the English translation in 2016 by Maureen Freely and Alexander Daw, that really opened the door for many of us outside Turkey to discover it.
Absolutely. And that's really our mission today in this deep dive. We want to unpack why. Why does this novel, set back in the 1920s and 30s, why does it hit so hard today? What gives it that timeless quality? So, okay, let's get into the story itself. It unfolds through the eyes of this unnamed narrator. He's in 1930s Ankara, and he gets intrigued by this quiet colleague, Raif Effendi, almost invisible, really. Then Raif gets ill, and he gives the narrator this notebook. And it's inside that notebook, that's where Raif's past, this incredibly moving story just comes pouring out.
Exactly. And the notebook tells us that, as a young man, Raif was sent off to Berlin. His father sent him supposedly to learn about soap making, of all things.
Soap making.
Right, yeah. But instead, Raif just spends his days reading, wandering around the city, soaking it all in. And it's on one of these wanderings. He's at an art exhibition, and he sees this self-portrait. He's completely captivated. It's called Madonna in a Fur Coat, and the artist is Maria Puder, a fiercely independent Jewish artist. And what's really fascinating is how their meeting sparks this deep relationship. It's often platonic, actually, and it deliberately, pushes against all the social rules of the time. Maria, she takes this very dominant, very self-assured role, while Raif, and this is unusual for male characters then, he really embraces his vulnerability, his introspection.
Okay, so you've got Rafe, this really sensitive, inward-looking guy, and he's drawn to Maria, who seems to challenge everything expected of women back then. So how, specifically, does their relationship defy those 1920s norms you mentioned, and what makes their story, stick with people so much?
That's really where Ali's genius is, I think. Maria isn't just independent, she's fiercely autonomous. She's intellectually sharp, deeply skeptical about traditional romance. Their bond, it's built on this shared loneliness almost, a quiet sort of rebellion against what everyone expects. It's a relationship where being vulnerable isn't seen as weak. And Maria's independence, it feels like a blueprint for relationships now, long before its time.
Wow.
But, despite this really unique connection, their love gets tested. Misunderstandings, societal pressure, and ultimately tragedy. It leads to this heartbreaking look at missed chances and grief that just lasts.
That phrase reviewers use, penetrate the reader's soul. This sounds intense. What is it in Ali's writing, the sort of secret sauce that makes Raif's journey feel so personal even now?
Well, it's really striking how the novel's tone, it's so introspective. It pulls you right into Raif's inner world. It's sensitive, almost melancholic. Ali's prose, and it's beautifully translated into English. It's simple on the surface, but incredibly evocative.
How does he do that?
I think it's because we spend so much time inside Raif's head. We feel every little bit of his shyness, his longing. It makes his inner struggles surprisingly relatable. You connect with it. Reviewers often talk about its ability to penetrate the reader's soul. Some mention a sprinkle of stardust that lifts this seemingly ordinary story into something quite profound about human emotion.
Right. And talking about nuanced emotions, that subversion of gender roles keeps coming up. Ali seems to deliberately flip the traditional dynamics. You have Maria, assertive, free-spirited, and she's a total contrast to Raif's quiet, almost submissive nature. There's that really striking monologue from Maria about female empowerment. She asks, let me get the quote right, "Why is it that even in the way you beg, there is dominance and pity in the way we refuse?"
Wow.
Powerful line. That alone feels like such a bold comment on masculinity, femininity, especially back then.
Oh, absolutely. It's more than just her character. It feels like a deliberate statement from Ali. Maria basically rewrites the rule book for female characters of that period. She embodies this freedom that challenges the patriarchy, but it's not like preachy about it. It's subtle.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not just a love story. It's this quiet but really potent exploration of sexual politics. It kind of asks us to rethink who holds the power in relationships and why.
Okay, so if we connect that to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
the novel explores these timeless themes, right? Alienation, looking for belonging, the ache of lost love. These things go way beyond the 1920s setting. Why do you think its relevance just keeps growing, particularly, say, in Turkey?
That's a great question. Its continued resonance, especially in Turkey, is fascinating. Think about the backdrop.
Uh-huh.
Interwar Berlin, post-Ottoman Turkey. It's a society grappling with huge changes.
Yeah.
Modernization, shifts in identity after the empire fell.
A lot going on.
Exactly. The novel captures that sense of cultural flux really vividly. And apparently, during periods of political repression in Turkey,
Yeah.
people have turned to this book. It offered a sort of refuge, a space for free expression, for authenticity. And Ali himself, he was a dissident voice. He spoke out against state oppression, his own time in Berlin as this deep autobiographical layer.
Yeah.
It gives the story this weight, this authenticity. And that sense of quiet rebellion really seemed to connect with younger readers today.
That context definitely adds another layer, but like any major work, it's not without its critics, right? What are some of the things readers sometimes push back on?
Well, yeah, some readers find the pace a bit slow. It's very introspective, almost like a play, some say.
Hmm.
So if you're expecting like a fast-moving plot, it might not be your cup of tea.
Okay.
And there's a structural thing, too. People notice there are no chapters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which can make it hard to find a natural place to stop. Some readers apparently just end up reading it all in one go because of that.
Huh. I can see that happening. That's interesting about the structure. But what about the characters themselves? I've seen online some readers find Rafe maybe too passive or Maria too cynical, calling them maybe whiny or annoying. Do you think that's just us looking back with modern eyes? Or maybe Ali wanted them to be less, I don't know, conventionally heroic?
That's a really crucial point.
Yeah.
Yes, historical context is vital. Things were different then. But it's also very possible Ali deliberately created characters who aren't straightforward heroes. Their flaws, their vulnerabilities, maybe that's what makes them feel more human, more relatable because they're imperfect.
Could be.
And remember, when it first came out in 1943, critics largely dismissed it. They called it basically just another love story. The literary establishment kind of overlooked it,
Why was that?
possibly because its romantic focus seemed at odds with Ali's known political writing. He had this reputation already.
Ah, okay.
So while that view has obviously changed massively, you still find some who argue it maybe lacks the overt political bite of his other work.
Okay. So, despite that, let's call it a lukewarm initial reception. What does its legacy look like now? It went from being ignored in 43 to quietly building this cult following, word of mouth mostly. And then in recent decades, boom, it becomes this massive Turkish bestseller. You mentioned it even outsells someone like Orhan Pamuk, the Nobel laureate. That's incredible.
It really is quite a journey, and its deep connection with young readers is something Ali's own daughter, Felice, has commented on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she believes it comes down to his portrayal of, like, authentic love and this quiet resistance against just conforming, which, as we sort of touched on, feels particularly relevant in Turkey's often quite restrictive social and political climate.
Right.
And the English translation, too, has been widely praised. People note its clarity, how true it feels to the original. Getting into Penguin Classics was a big deal, cemented its place.
And it's drawn comparisons to some heavy hitters, hasn't it? Like Remarque's Three Comrades for that melancholic feel, and even Dostoevsky's White Nights for the introspective characters, which just shows its ongoing cultural weight. And there's even a film adaptation announced, right? Love in Vietnam for 2024.
That's right. Which all leads to a rather thought-provoking question, I think. If a story, which critics initially brushed off as, just another love story, if that story can quietly build such a devoted following over decades, becoming a national sensation, a global classic, what does that tell us? What does that reveal about the actual power of, say, introspection, of emotional honesty, and maybe challenging societal norms through art?
That's a great question to leave people with. It really is a, soul-stirring book, beautifully crafted. It's one of those that definitely lingers long after you finish the last page. A real testament to Ali's skill, weaving these deep human truths into what looks like a simple love story on the surface. So if you appreciate those kinds of stories, introspective, character-driven, really digging into the complexities of love and identity, this is definitely one for you to explore. As one Goodreads reviewer put it so well, this book didn't just tug at my emotions, it grabbed them, twisted them, and left me raw. We really encourage you to check it out for yourself.